talk about the yeast beast in your gut. And we are going to be talking about what's going on in your gut, which might be causing you to crave sugar. So what does it mean to have a beast in your gut? Hi, Sophia. Nice to see you here. So I am talking about the yeast beast and what does it mean? Now, we all know that we have bacteria and bugs in our gut. That's how most of our gut is made, and our body is literally full of bacteria. And that's normal. That's nothing to be scared about. But sometimes this bacteria, or the balance of the bacteria, rather I should say, it is out of whack. And that's when problems start to arise. Now, today we are specifically talking about the yeast beast. And what that means is, if you have a sweet tooth, do you have a sweet tooth? Hey! If you have a sweet tooth, which, a lot of us, again, we have sweet tooths, we like to eat sweets, we crave sweets. But if it comes to the point where it is not in your willpower anymore, oh, you don't like sweets? Oh my goodness, okay. You are the first one. Well, not really. That's a lie. I know of a few people who don't like sweets, but this might still be, applicable. Do you like carbs? So, because carbs turn to sugar in the body. So what happens is when you have a craving for sweets or for carbs, your body is literally asking for sugar, because sweets and carbs, they convert to sugar in the body. When that happens, you like salty, but salty would be carbs. I'm guessing pretzels or chips. Right. So what was I saying? Yeah. So carbs, basically, whether it's chips or pretzels or bread or rice or the sweet treats, of course, like the donuts, they convert to sugar in the body. And sometimes when we have these strong cravings for these foods and we cannot take control of it as, like, oh, I'm just going to go cold turkey and I'm going to stay away from it and talk about willpower. If it's not working that way for you, there's maybe something going on in the gut. And what that might be is having a yeast infection, also called Candida. So Candida, how do you know if you've got, symptoms like gas or bloating? That's one of the very common symptoms of having a Candida infection, because when the Candida yeast gives out toxins, or when it releases the byproducts of its digestion, they are gas, and that would cause bloating. The other symptom might be you might have eczema or other skin conditions. You might get rashes randomly, or eruptions that would go away, and like red rashes. So that might be another symptom. Another symptom is when you get brain fog. You can't think clearly, and this doesn't just happen once in a while, but also it's something that is repeatedly happening. The other thing that might happen is, like I said, increase in your cravings for sugar or carbs. Other thing is lack of energy. So because every time you have carbs, excessive carbs and sugar, it will send your body into that energy increase and crash cycle. That might be another indication that you might be having a Candida infection. If you have itching, especially in your bum area, the rectal itching, that could be a sign of Candida infection as well. So how does Candida get strong in the body? How is it that we get a Candida infection? The number one thing is having a lot of processed foods in themselves. So because they are devoid of nutrients, they don't have much nutritive value to them. They're literally empty calories. These processed foods are high in, again, flour, sugar, dairy, which convert to sugar in the body. So you're having a diet itself which is very high in carbs. and processed foods and sugars. The other thing is when you have already a weak gut, which means you already have gut issues like heartburn or IBS or constipation, that means there's something going on with your digestive system that is not making it function at the optimal level. The third one would be having, a lot of antibiotics or medication, which throws your gut bacterial balance out of whack. Because, when you have antibiotics, it just kills bacteria randomly, right? It doesn't distinguish between the good ones and the bad ones. It just goes and it's like a mass destruction. So if you have been on antibiotics repeatedly, oops, the sound has gone for me. Oh, I hope you can hear me now. Yeah, I'm not sure why that would happen. The connection seems fine here. So I'll continue, but type in if you can't hear me, and then maybe I'll have to, hop back in. Having antibiotics, like I said, they just go and kill everything without distinguishing between good bacteria and bad bacteria. So that means your good bacteria is dying, and that means your bad bacteria. Cool. Okay, that's great. Perfect. So that gets stronger. The balance is disturbed, right? It's almost like having an army of the bad guys coming in and invading you, and the strong, your soldiers who are protecting you are dying now, right? So they can't keep up, and then there is this yeast manifestation. Sometimes exposure to mold, and sometimes, we don't even realize the mold exposure or manifestation maybe in our roof or our ceiling or our air conditioners. It's rampant and we don't even know that it's there, but that might, aggravate your symptoms. Also, sometimes use of birth control pills or other immune suppressants, if you've been on other medication, say you have an autoimmune condition and you're having immune suppressants for that, that might lead to a gut bacteria imbalance and a growth in Candida. So there are a lot of different reasons as to why you might have a Candida infection. So, and I talked about the symptoms as well prior to this. So those are your indicators. Now there are tests that you can do, and go to your doctor or naturopath and find out if you have a Candida infection. But say when I'm working one-on-one with my clients, I will do a detailed symptom analysis and of course a food intake form. So based on what you're eating and what your symptoms are, most of the time we can say with pretty much accuracy that you do have a Candida infection or you don't. And funny, because I'm a digestion expert, I have seen literally 75% of my clients, I can say with pretty confidence, have got a Candida infection going on. So if you also have, symptoms of IBS, which is diarrhea or constipation or alternating, if you have food sensitivities, Candida might be one of the reasons which is aggravating your symptoms. So generally, Candida infection, another misconception about that is that it is more, a Candida or a yeast infection is more rampant in women. It's not the case. I mean, yes, women are more prone overall for yeast infections, but I have had male clients as well who've had Candida infections, and they were like, in denial when they were told that. Like, no, I can't have a yeast. I'm like, yeah, you do. And then, obviously when we went through the protocol, they started feeling better. And for men, it has to be a proof all the time, right? So anyway, that was off topic. But so you have to see what symptoms you're going through and what have been your dietary habits like. And if you think the two are, sort of making sense for you in terms of the symptoms you're experiencing, then you need to go to a Candida clearing protocol, which would start first of all with cutting down all processed and packaged foods, especially high carb foods. So anything like, your donuts and chips and pretzels and a lot of bread, that has to go. Another thing that has to go is foods with yeast in them, because you already have yeast and you don't want more yeast in your body. So the foods which are baked, those have yeast, which helps the bread rise, for example. So you need to cut down from yeast containing products as well. That's number two. Number three, you have to have a lot of probiotic foods and probiotic supplements as well, so that helps you to kind of repopulate the bacterial balance or growth in the body. And then, of course, the last one would be to have a gut strengthening protocol. And generally, I walk my clients through 5, steps to strengthening your gut, where you're figuring out what are the foods that need to be removed for the short term. I never believe in removing foods forever unless you're allergic to them. Right? So if you say gluten sensitive or celiac, sensitivity is different versus celiac is different. Gluten sensitivity, hopefully after following through a gut strengthening protocol, you should be able to have the foods that you were sensitive to in the first place. Whereas if you're allergic to a particular food, it's a very different immune response, and you should not be eating that food, period. So the protocol, therefore, would be to figure out which foods you need to eliminate temporarily or permanently. What are you allergic to? What are you sensitive to? What are the foods that you need to add to your diet, right? Garlic, for example, that is a good antibacterial and antiviral. So when you have to kill off infections, garlic is great to build your immunity and fight infections. So what are some of the foods that you need to start including in your diet? And anytime we are talking about any sort of gut issues, whether it's diarrhea, IBS, constipation, heartburn issues, Candida infection, liver issues, or detoxes, we want to make sure that we are taking care of foods that need to be removed and talk about foods that need to be included, because we just don't want to be randomly removing the foods and cause a nutrient deficiency or an imbalance in the way you're eating. So it's equally important how you to think about the foods that you need to incorporate in your diet. The other step would be obviously to repair the damage that has been done with the help of, again, healthy gut healing foods and supplements. The next step is to try and douse the fire. That would be the first step, actually, is to figure out what was going on and really get to the root cause of what is causing your symptoms and work it from there. Stress, by the way, is a big factor when it comes to any gut issues, because stress is your fight or flight response, and I could do a whole different live stream on this, but stress is your fight or flight response, and it requires a lot of energy, whether you're running away or whether you're fighting a situation. And digestion by itself is a very energy intensive process as well, because think about it, the food that you are eating needs to be broken down, the nutrients taken out of it, absorbed and assimilated in the body, the waste needs to be eliminated. There's a lot of stuff going on, right, behind the scenes, which we don't even think about. So digestion is a very energy intensive process, and if you're stressed, if you're under the fight or flight response, then you are not focusing on digestion, and that causes further gas, that causes further bloating, that causes further heartburn. So all of this really goes hand in hand. You have to think about what's really going on with your life and your body at the time. So stress is another thing that we talk about, and how can we reduce stress or eliminate it, because stress, literally, if you think about it, is just the way you're reacting to a particular situation. It could be a false alarm, which your brain is perceiving as a real threat, right? So say you're getting late for a meeting. Yes, I understand the importance of being there on time, but it's really not a life-threatening situation. But the brain can't distinguish between that stress where you are facing a tiger versus, oh, I'm late for a meeting and now I'm stressed. Right? So there's so many different things that are going on, and I think I've gone off the tangent talking about Candida, but it all becomes a part of the digestive system. So you really want to figure out what's going on with your body, what is it that is, out of balance, and you need to get to the root of it. And if it is Candida, then there is a Candida protocol that needs to be followed in order to get rid of that bad yeast and start repopulating your gut with the healthy bacteria. Eat the right foods, take care of stress, and that's how you get rid of symptoms. It's not just I crave salt, I crave sugar, I crave carbs, and I'm just not going to eat it. That definitely will not work in the long term. It might for a few days, but not in the long term, because you haven't gotten to the root of it. That's literally like, taking an Advil for your pain and saying, oh, my pain is gone forever. No, it's gone temporarily because you just masked the symptom. So taking away the foods that are causing you the symptom is just one part of the whole equation. So if you are, wondering if you have Candida, if you think that you might be suffering from any of these gut issues that we talked about, then we need to chat, because I specialize in digestion, and that's where, my expertise and my passion lies. Hi, Anita. How are you? Oh my God, it's been such a long time. Yeah, so we were just talking about Candida infections and the gut and stress and the whole thing. So you want to maybe go back and listen to the recording. But yes, so Sophia, if you have any questions, or Anita, you feel free to pop them in here. I will be happy to answer them for you. And if there are any ideas for live streams that you would like to hear about, feel free to post them here too. I'm very well, Anita. I'm very well. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's probably, a couple years or even more than that, that we've been face to face. Yeah, so that is what I wanted to come to your live feed and talk about: Candida, gut issues. And hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, post them here. I'll come back and answer them for you very happily. And love to hear from you anyway. So yes, and I do have, if you go to my website, I do have a cheat sheet there on 10 rocking foods, on 10 foods for rocking digestion. So you might want to grab a copy of that if you've been going through any gut issues. So that might be of help, and I'll happily answer any questions for you. So I will see you next time, and take care. Bye.